welcome to J&B Inspired. My name is Michelle and you're joining us for our Food for Thought series, episode number 2. Today we're going to be cooking one of my new recipes, which is a home-baked muesli bar. This muesli bar has been created because my children are currently going through a food trial. And anybody who has kids who have experienced food trials, we really want it to be a positive experience. Even if there's a chance that things don't go according to plan, whether they react to it or whether they just don't like the texture or the way that it makes them feel. So we're going to be adding in some gluten-based products. So in this recipe, it does have oats and oat flour. They are certified wheat-free, but not gluten-free. If, for example, you are a celiac and you cannot have any gluten at all, then you can alter these 2 ingredients. You can add additional rice bubbles in instead of the oats, and the oat flour can be changed to chickpea flour, buckwheat flour. You could use a gluten-free based flour as well. You could use coconut flour. So in this recipe today, we're going to be incorporating all of the dry ingredients first, then cooking the wet ingredients on the stove until they become frothy, so that when it mixes together with all of the other ingredients, it forms a firm bond, and then they'll be cooked in the oven. Without further ado, let's get cooking. So we're going to combine the oats, the oat flour, and the rice bubbles. And I just like to mix as I'm going, because with all of my recipes, I'm making it in bulk because nobody as a carer has time to make this every single week. And obviously, if a recipe is loved and it gets eaten quickly, then by all means, we make more. However, I try and make it so that I'm not having to make everything all at the same time, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of the week and realizing you've got nothing left and you need to rebake everything. So this is fine desiccated coconut, and if the texture, I use a fine because the texture is not noticeable when you combine it into your recipes, which is really important because my children struggle with different texture combinations. So once we add the wet ingredients and everything, this becomes kind of a little bit like a cake consistency in a muesli bar. So it's not super hard and it's not super soft, and it's easy to bite. It doesn't take a lot of jaw pressure and strength. We've got xanthium gum, got baking soda, baking powder, and some cinnamon. And again, we're going to mix all of this together. So now that that's all mixed together, I'm just going to put that to the side for the moment. So here I have maple syrup and ground chia seeds. This is to make a chia seed egg. This way it's super fine and they're not impacted by it at all. So we're just going to mix this together, and then whilst I'm combining all of the other ingredients, this will become an egg. We're going to put that in the fridge for 15 minutes, and then that'll become a jelly-like. The next lot of dry ingredients that we're adding into our muesli bars, this is personal preference. So you can use any combination of dried fruits, chocolate, nuts, seeds, whatever you guys are able to tolerate in your diets, and also whatever textures they're happy to have in combination. So because I like to make things in bulk, I'm going to be doing half adult, half kids. Some of these ingredients, like the nuts, I don't incorporate into the kids' meals at all. So I'll wait till the very end before I do that, because I don't like any cross-contamination, because we don't want anybody to have any reactions. So I'm using a range of different dried fruits, and they are dried apricots, dried blueberries, cranberries, and sultanas. I like to finely chop these up because, again, it's a textural based situation. So I just cut them up into little cubes. The other option, which we talked about the last episode, was that mixing textures is a difficult experience when you have sensory processing, oral aversions, or you are dealing with food allergies. It can be scary at sometimes. So like I did last time, depending on where your kids are with their textural tolerance, these can also be pulsed really, really fine. I'm just finely dicing them to what I know that my kids can tolerate. You can pulse them into guess, a jam consistency in a food processor or a blender. You can use any combination. So if your kids don't like apricots but they love pineapple, then use some dried pineapple. If you're using fresh ingredients, fresh apricots, fresh fruit, just keep in mind the moisture content, because that will alter how much wet ingredients you need to use in your recipe. This recipe, as I said, is a softer texture, so it is a little bit crumbly, and that's because that makes it easier for my kids to tolerate and enjoy. I freeze all of my recipes as well because I make them in bulk. So if you decide that you'd like to make them in bulk, they do freeze really well for up to 3 months. Not that mine ever lasts that long. I'm always having to make things again. I try and do it so that we're on a schedule, so that I'm never out of, I've always got some form of snack and multiple options, because I don't know whether or not you guys have the same experience. But my kids might like one thing one day, but they won't have it the next. Or they go for a week and they really love it and then they need a break from it. So I always have lots of different options available so that they can enjoy them. So we do that with the sultanas, just make them smaller. And one of the things is like, my kids will eat sultanas on their own, but they won't eat dried apricots on their own. But they haven't said anything about them in our recipe because they're not densely packed within it. It's scattered throughout, so they may get one tiny little piece in one of them and the next day they might get 2. So it's not overpowering. I think that's really important, especially when you're considering sensory profiles, taste, texture, and smell. So this is another activity that if your kids are old enough and they are learning how to use knife skills and things. Now the cranberries add a little bit of tartness to it. So if you've not had a cranberry before, or a dried cranberry, I suggest that you give it a try first and see what you think. I cut these ones up a little bit finer, just adds a nice balance within the muesli bar itself. So I also have some chocolate drops and some seeds. So seeds are okay for my kids. So I incorporate a mixture of seeds. I've got pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds in here, so just add those in as well. Okay, so we were talking about this in the last episode when we were combining the 2 different chocolates. So this is Sweet Williams chocolate. It does have soy flour in the block chocolate, but I have just noticed, I bought this yesterday and I've noticed that they've actually removed the soy flour out of the ingredients within this. The only thing it mentions is that there's traces of soy. So if you have an intolerance or may contain traces rather, then you probably still are best to not have this. If you've got an allergy, definitely not, but they are definitely gluten, dairy, and nut free. So I actually melt these and we're going to drizzle them on top later. So I'm just going to combine the ingredients that I use for the kids in here. However, the other thing is, if you can tolerate nuts and you don't have an allergy to them at all, by all means, I just roughly chop these into chunks because we don't have a problem with the textures as adults. And I also incorporate some white dairy choc chips because we can tolerate dairy as adults. So those are the 2 ingredients that we add in addition to what's already in here. So while I'm evenly distributing the ingredients in here before we add in our wet ingredients, I wanted to take a moment to say thank you for being here and supporting me and J&B Inspired to create this series. If you would subscribe to get notifications and tick the bell so that when we release the next episode, you guys will know that it's there and you can access it as soon as possible. The other thing I wanted to invite you guys to was J&B Inspired's waitlist. I've placed the link in the description below. By becoming a member of J&B Inspired, you'll be receiving a free copy of this delicious recipe, as well as receiving early access and notification for when we're releasing our new videos, podcasts, when we release in the near future our cookbook, as well as our amazing products and services that are heading your way. J&B Inspired has some amazing things being released in the next 12 months, and I'd love to be able to offer you that first and foremost before the general public. You'll also receive exclusive offers and discounts along the way. And as you're coming along with this journey, it also allows me to send you the recipes that I'll be creating in each of the episodes so that you can try them at home, and hopefully you'll share them with us and let me know what you've loved, what you need assistance with, or if you need any changes or suggestions on how to incorporate it for your intolerances or your families. So now we're going to move on to incorporating the wet ingredients. You will also require a stove for this because we are actually going to heat them up and make them frothy so that this combines well. So we've combined all of the liquid ingredients and brought it to a boil. This is the chia seed and maple syrup mixture we talked about before. So it's still liquidy, but it is also going to help with our binding. Now we're going to get the hot ingredients. Now, because this is hot and we want it to combine everything, this is a fast-paced situation where we need to combine it all. So we're just basically mixing all of the wet ingredients through so that all of the dry ingredients are coated. If you see dry ingredients, you still need to mix more, because otherwise when you put it in the oven, which we will be doing at 170 degrees Celsius. So the wet ingredients that I used was coconut oil, Nuttelex, honey, and golden syrup. We already used maple syrup earlier on, and I find with a combination of three, it keeps the sweetness low. We're putting it in a 170 degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. You want it golden brown on top, light and fluffy when you touch it and it springs back. So first I just press it out to get an even layer as I can before I start pressing. Now I just go through and press it all in. So this also compresses some of the rice bubbles and things together as well. So gives it a more even texture. And now I'm going to put this in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes. We like to add some of the Sweet Williams chocolate on top. You can either drizzle it or use it as a sheet depending on what you're aiming for. So it's been in the oven for 30 minutes. It's a beautiful golden brown color, and when you touch it, it springs back. It's crispy to the touch. Now I've melted the Sweet Williams chocolate. I just added a teaspoon of coconut oil to it. Put it in the microwave, 30-second intervals. If you don't have a microwave, you can always use a double boiler. So I just put a thin coat of the chocolate across it. It's still warm because it's only just come out of the oven. So just spread it across the top, and then this will cool together. As you can see, it's just a really thin layer of chocolate. You can add more on it if you are a chocolate lover and you want a thicker crust on it. So once this is completely cold, I'll cut it up and I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. Voila! Look at the yummy and scrumptious muesli bars that have come out after making and finishing off the muesli bars. As you can see, it's definitely a different day. However, we've finished and they are absolutely scrumptious. Thank you for joining us for our second episode. We've loved having you here and we look forward to spending some more time with you in episode number 3. If you'd love a copy and you'd like to try making our beautiful muesli bars, please look at the description below where you'll find our waitlist for J&B Inspired. I'll send you through a copy of the recipe as a thank you for joining and supporting us at J&B Inspired. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time, have a great evening.